Howdy folks, Bluesboyjag here with another outdoor walking CBG lesson, I guess, maybe, or maybe just kind of talking about CBGs. So I thought today I would talk about how to learn songs and how to practice playing cigar box guitar. I think the best way to start out is write down the chords you know. If you know 18 chords, you don't need to write down all 18. But if you know 3, 4, 5, 6 different shapes, write down those shapes or just the name of those chords on the piece of paper. This is what I did when I started playing 6-string guitar years ago. And I would randomly change chords. So let's say you have 6 chords on the list. Pick one of those chords, play a rhythm on it. You can do a shuffle or whatever, maybe 4 beats, maybe 8 beats, then go to the next chord, and then go to the next chord, next chord, next chord, and so forth. If you play about, 4 or 5 chords for 5 minutes, maybe even just 3 minutes, then you'll get some good memory, muscle memory, what they call muscle memory, moving your fingers to the different chords. I would say probably strum 4 beats per measure, which means, let's say you're going to be playing an A chord, for instance. Go da 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 da. So that's 2 measures of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then go to another chord. Doesn't matter which chord it is, even if it sounds silly, even if it's not in the right key. Doesn't really matter. Don't worry about keys and all that stuff. Just practice moving your fingers and changing chords. The more you move, the more you change, the quicker you get. It's really about muscle memory. So take those first 2 chords, go back and forth, 4 beats per chord. Da 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 da. That's your strum. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Then go to the next chord. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So that's going to be 8 beats right there. Then you can go back to your first chord and repeat. Once you get that down pretty good, add another chord to it. Remember to keep your tempo real steady, real rock solid steady. That will make it smoother and it will help you to stay on the beat. If you have a metronome on your phone, that's even better. I also use, when I teach guitar at my house, I have my laptop and I run YouTube through the speaker, and I'll pull up a metronome or a drum track on YouTube, and it'll be just a simple repetitive drum track, so you can play along with that. That's real cool and real important. It's your metronome. Back in the day, all we had was the tick 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 metronome. You could barely hear it with an electric guitar playing in the background. But these days, just crank it up through YouTube, get a tempo that you can play to. You don't want it to be too fast. Do 2 chords back and forth. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then change chords and do another one. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and be sure and start out slow. Don't start your tempo too fast. Don't go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 in, because it's gonna take you a few seconds to change chords. The goal here is to change chords on the beat, not before the beat and not behind the beat. So make sure your beat is not too fast. How do you know if it's not too fast? If you have to slow down. So if you go, for instance, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, now you're moving your fingers to the next chord. Now you're ready to play the second chord. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, that's way too fast. You want to do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and change, and 2 and 3 and 4 and change, and 2 and 3 and 4. The change obviously being changing chords. If that's too fast, slow it down to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, change 1 and 2. That might not seem very fast, but it actually is for beginners. So if that's too fast, slow down some more. Go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, change 1 And that's also, for beginners, kind of fast. So if that's too fast, slow down some more. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... I know that doesn't sound very exciting, but trust me, do that 2 or 3 days in a row and choose, I don't know, 3 chords, and do those same 3 chords for, I don't know, 5 minutes. Then choose 3 more chords. Do those for, say, 3 to 5 minutes. Maybe not 5 minutes, that might be too long. Might get kind of boring. You want it to be fun and interesting. So maybe, a minute and a half or so. And then take 2 or 3 different chords, completely different chords. Do the same thing. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, change 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, change 1. And just go back and forth with those 3 chords. The trick here is you want those chords, like I said, to be on the beat. So what I would do is take 2 or 3 chords that are relatively close together, so you don't have to jump all up and down the neck. Keep in mind, a cigar box guitar has 3 strings, which means lots of chords are going to be in various locations. Whereas on the 6 string, you got chords all over the place. So you got several different versions of all the chords, generally speaking, in the same area on the 6 string, but not on a 3 string. You got to jump all over the place on a 3 string. So you got to get used to that. So even a normal, quote, normal tempo of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, if you change the chord way up high, then you have to jump up pretty fast on the fretboard. So do not start too fast. Start ridiculously slow, like embarrassingly slow. And within 30 seconds or a minute, you'll be increasing your tempo by at least 20%. That will allow you to get used to jumping up and down the fretboard. On a 6 string, you don't have to jump all over the place so much because you got chords everywhere. But on a 3 string or 4 string, not so much. So start up nice and easy and keep on adding more chords as you practice more. I would take 3 chords, practice for, like I said, 2, 3, 4 minutes. Maybe add another chord to those 3 for 2, 3, 4 minutes. Maybe add another chord to those 4, 2 or 3 minutes, and another one. And you can, it doesn't have to be a beautiful song. All it has to do is just move to the different chords. So within about 10 or 15 minutes, maybe you'll have 4, 5, 6 chords that you're randomly playing. Make sure it's 2 or 3 beats on each one to start out, just to make it easy. And as you continue, you'll get faster and you'll be able to move up and down on the fretboard much quicker. It all kind of depends on how many chords you know and how much you practice. At first it's kind of not so exciting practice. I don't know. Maybe for some people it's more exciting than for others. But once you get to the point where you can play faster and change faster up and down the neck, there are trillions and trillions and gazillions of songs you can play. Until you get to that point, there's maybe 5 or 10 songs you can play. Well, I'm exaggerating on the low side maybe. But that's what I would do. Take the chords, experiment, and move up and down the fretboard with the metronome. Now here's a word of advice, or maybe a couple of words. Make sure that if you do have a metronome, especially if you have one of those iPhone metronomes, they're not very loud. You may not be able to hear it very well. And hearing that metronome is critical. So if you're practicing late at night and you don't want to be too loud, don't practice late at night. You sort of want to kind of be loud when you practice, because you want to be able to hit those notes and those chords right on the downbeat. And the only way you're going to hear that, see, there's a metronome right there with the truck moving. It's not a bad tempo actually to start out at. But don't start too fast. And make sure the metronome is almost annoyingly loud, especially if you're using your little dinky phone. using your little dinky phone, it's hard to hear where the beat is. So either plug your phone into a bigger speaker or use a metronome video on YouTube. You can pull up all sorts of different metronomes. I call them metronomes. They're basically just a rhythm track or a drum beat, maybe a drum machine program. And that'll just keep on going and going and going. Pick the tempo, obviously that's not too fast, and run it through a speaker. If that speaker is loud enough, then you can hear where the downbeat is. If it's not loud enough, you will be off time and you won't know it. That's super, super critical. A lot of people don't think about that. I had a guitar student for a couple of years and he kept getting off time. And finally, after a couple of weeks, I asked him, how are you listening to your metronome? And he had his metronome on the table 4 feet away on his phone. I said, A, that's too far away. B, that's not going to be nearly loud enough. So I told him to use YouTube and pull up drum machine videos where you get the whole drum kit playing without any other instruments. And run it through a speaker. Turn the speaker up relatively loud enough to where you probably don't want to do it late at night if you got other folks in the apartment or the house that you're in. But you want it to be kind of annoyingly loud, not crazy loud, because you want to be able to hear your guitar. And these are things that people tend to overlook, and they're like, yeah, of course, metronome, yeah, everybody knows that, playing along with the metronome, stay in time. Well, it's important to play along with that metronome at the right volume. And also it's important, like I said earlier, not to start too fast. So you want to start out playing with a metronome at a doable tempo. And once you get 2 or 3 or 4 chords where you can change, an example would be ba-dee-da, bum-ba-dee-da, bum-ba-dee-da, bum-ba-dee-da. That's a shuffle. They call it bum-ba-dee-da. Then you go to the 4 chord, which I won't get into why they call it the 4 chord. It's the second of the 3 chords, but it's called the 4 chord, blah, 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 blah. So here's your blues. Bum-ba-dee-da, 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 bum-ba-dee-da. So that's 4 beats. And then you go to your second chord. Bum-ba-dee-da, 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 bum-ba-dee-da. That's your second chord, which they call the 4 chord. First chord's the 1 chord, blah, blah, blah. And then you got your third chord. Bum-ba-dee-da, bum-ba-dee-da. Then you come back down to the second chord again. Bum-ba-dee-da, bum-ba-dee-da. Then you come down to the first chord. Bum-ba-dee-da, bum-ba-dee-da. Obviously, I'm not a very good hummer without a guitar in my hands. But the idea is that you play with that, play shuffle, if you're playing blues, with a speaker and a metronome that's loud enough. Don't use those tiny little tick, tick, ticks on your iPhone. That's not even anywhere near close enough as far as being loud enough. Make sure that you have that volume. Sometimes you can pull up a full drum kit, drum machine metronome on YouTube. So you have the full drum kit with the fills and everything, which sounds just like a song you've heard. That helps a lot too. So you have all the in-between beats to gauge your strumming to. That's certainly a good idea. But you also need to be able to do it with bare minimum tick, tick, tick metronomes. So let's say, for instance, you're playing a slow tempo and you're using a tick, tick, tick metronome. If it's sort of slow or even pretty slow, it's going to seem glacially slow. It's going to seem like you have huge chasms of time in between each beat, even though you don't. That's because if you only have that metronome set up for clicking on the 1 and not the 2 and 3 and 4, it's going to be like this. Let's say your tempo is 1, 2, 3, 4, but you only hear the click on the 1, and the 2 and 3 and 4 are simulated. They're not there. You have to tap your foot on those. Don't do that. You want to start out with the click on every beat. That's super important. So let's say it's a slow song, and here's the tempo. Click, 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 click. You want it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Click, 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 click. You don't have to play on all those beats. You can only play on the one if you want to. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But you're only playing the chord on the first beat. That makes it much easier. You start out too fast, and you're going to have some trouble keeping up. But if you start out slow, you can always increase your tempo later. The key is to be right on the beat and not to start too fast, and have your volume loud enough so you can hear where the beat is. So I hope this helps out. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. If you haven't already, Happy New Year, and we will see you next time.